Yeah, I'm just
Because,
calculation.
okay, so we are on air now.
All right.
There are 0 attendees up to now. Okay, so one is finished. Hello guys, hello. So we are just 1 minute away from our session, and let's just hit the clock and then we'll get going. Sorry to keep you guys waiting. Okay, so it's time. Hello everyone. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to wherever you are. Hope you are all doing well in these difficult times. And today we have Anand with us. It's a pleasure to have you, Anand, over here. Thank you for joining us in this webinar. And so today we'll be having our webinar on, converting the top MBA programs in European Union with a low GMAT score, probably in the band of 640 to 670, and then how to extract the maximum MBA ROI while selecting, while narrowing down your choices to school selection and such programs. Guys, before moving on forward, I'll just run a quick poll so as to ensure that you all guys can hear me out clearly and loud. So I'm going to be publishing the poll right away. If you are able to hear me, just hit the yes button, and if you're not able to hear me properly, just select the new option number 2, which is no. So great to hear. Yes. Thank you, guys. I'll be ending the polls now. I have many responses. Great to hear that all of you can hear me. So let's get going, guys. I'll be sharing my screen now. So we will be covering this webinar in 3 sections. In first 2 minutes, we will be covering who we are, and then we will be going to our main part, which is how to select your European B school, how to narrow down to your programs, and with your GMAT score, which might be in the upper band or which might be in the mid band, which would be 640 to 670 range, and then how to extract the maximum ROI. Then in this section, we will also cover what will be your life during MBA, post MBA, what could be the what are the benefits you are going to reap while pursuing MBA from European Union through European colleges, their immigration policies, and stuffs like these. In the third section, at last, we will have an open-ended session of Q&A, wherein we will be covering your doubts and questions, so that if we might have missed on to some doubts in your mind which we are not able to clear, so we'll have an open-ended session in which we all will be interconnecting and communicating with each other, so that it becomes a very genuine session and you guys take most out of this session. Just to because I feel that something is wrong, just to make sure that you can see my screen clearly, I will be running another poll for screen because okay, so here it is. Yes, and let's go. So we are GMATWhiz, and we are the world's truly personalized course. And what do we mean by being a personalized course is that everyone who joins GMATWhiz, he or she gets a tailor-made solution which is personalized for that person. For example, let's say there is a person A who joins the course whose weakness is quant, and there's a person B who joins who joins the same course and whose weakness is verbal. So what do you think should be the course of events for both the person who have joined the course? Should both people focus on the same areas? Should they have the same course of structure to follow ahead, or should their path be different? So according to me, which I feel who everybody's answer would be that the course should be based upon the person's skill set. So if he's good at something, he should probably work on brushing up those skills and save time and effort and invest that time and effort on the other areas in which he's weak at, so that he he optimizes his time as well as his efforts in that sense. So how do you do that? Now, if you look at what we have to offer in this, we offer a personalized study plan. This study plan is curated by AI algorithm, which according to your skill set, if you are a fresher who has just started on, let's say, GMAT journey, then it takes you as a fresher. And then if you have prepared for some time, it takes your current score and keep that into account while building a study plan for you. So the structure or the course that you get after signing up for the GMATWhiz, the the study plan that you get is personalized based upon your skill set. Okay, now, but once you have joined this thing, how do you go on improving? So you might ask me, hey Rajiv, but how is this possible? If once I get the study plan, if we move forward in the course, we might be discovering certain new weaknesses, certain new strengths, and how is this course going to adapt with that? So I have a good news for that as well, because when you join this course, you will see that the study plan is not just personalized and it is also adaptive. So what do we mean by adaptive? Let's say Amy, who just joined the GMATWhiz, she has over the course of time, she has realized that she has improved upon the sentence correction, but her critical reasoning has gone down. So AI through data will read this thing out, and it will curate and it will change that study plan, the exercises, the course structure for Amy, and she will now be practicing in another environment where their course will be structured more towards the weak areas. Now, when you move on, how is it made possible? AI gives you real-time improvement modules. In those, what happens is that you get structured as well as practice sets which are curated just for you. So the sets that you are practicing might be very well different from the sets that another person is practicing based upon their own skill set. So that is how the AI structures it. Now, along with these two things, you might sometimes also feel that AI is able to do this all stuff, but sometimes I really feel like I'm stuck and I don't know. I feel like I've hit a dead block and I'm not able to move forward in the journey. So what you can do in that place is every 15 days you can connect with a dedicated mentor assigned to you. Over that, you can have a personalized call with that mentor, and that mentor will come prepared with the backend data with all your answers and solutions, and then he or she will guide you over what you have to follow in the next let's say next 14-15 days, so that improve on your journey. Now, if you move further, we'll see what the study plan is, and how does it look like, or how does it operate. If you see in the right hand side, we have these upcoming milestones which are visible for every week. Whenever you look at the calendar in the section, you will see that what are the milestones that you have to cover in the next coming weeks. Now, if you see, if you click on any section, these are not just meant to show you. It's not just an illustration, but an active pop-up. And if you click on these section, a menu opens up wherein if you click on the start button, this course will start and will take you right away to that log or right away to that lecture where you need to be. So you don't need to scroll down to the lectures and see what you need to practice and what you don't need to practice. Here is the summary of all the files which you can see. Let's say if you want to revise certain concept, you can go to that concept, and you can look at those concepts or files which you want to visit depending upon that week, and you can just get started away. So this is how the portal looks from inside, and it takes your first diagnostic quiz so as to assess your current skill level, so that AI has an idea whether you are improving over a period of time or not. If not, then what can be done further ahead. This is the data point from GMAT Club. It shows the ladder on which this is a metric on which every course is assessed upon. So GMATWhiz lies on top of the ladder. We have a record of 100+ point score improvement, which has been highest on GMAT Club, and these scores are verified by verifying the scores of students from official GMAT site, and this is not something you can just come up with. So these scores are keyed in, and GMAT Club verifies the scores. So this is a credible source of data at what we are looking at. Now, so moving on to our main part, what are we here for? So before I tell you what we are here for, I would love to know your expectation, guys. And for that, I will also be running a short poll so that I can steer this conversation in the right direction and ensure that you guys get most out of this conversation today. So I will be just running up the polls right away. And what are your expectations from this session? Is it something like, you want to work on story structuring? What are the application? How to build your application? Or, you would like to focus on school selections or ensuring high ROI, or, how to finance? Great to hear such quick responses. Appreciate the swiftness, guys, and the rigor that I see. I guess we have active, very much enthusiastic participants today. Love to see that. Poll seems to be stabilizing now, and glad to see that we have structured our conversation in which the results we are going to publish. So I'll be ending the poll, guys. Looks like the poll has stabilized now. So we have 64% people in the webinar who wants for school selection, who wants to go for school selection, and 28%, which is the second winner, for application structuring. So guys, thank you for letting us know. And fortunately, we have structured the presentation, the webinar in that direction only, where Anand will help you out in school selection and also in application structuring. So good to know we are all on the same page. Now, another question that I would like to ask, because to make this session more interactive, is that what would you like us to focus on? So this is something that was your expectation, and what now I would like to know what is that you would like us to focus on. So would you like to focus on the leadership part, or portraying weaknesses, or low GMAT scores? Okay, scholarships. Great. So we are all going the same direction. Happy to see. Anand, do you see this? The polls, guys are just interested in what we have thought of. So this looks like to be a very common pain point in the domain. Would be ending the poll, guys, because the poll seems to be stabilized now. So happy to see that most of the guys, around 50% of the attendees, they want like us to address the low GMAT score point, and the second winner is scholarship point particularly. So we'll address both the points, and let's see what lies ahead. So the major focus areas in further will be how demystifying the European MBA. What it has to offer, what are the programs, how you can enroll yourself in, and and then we will move on to the next section, which is how to identify the B school for yourself based upon your profile, based upon your CAT rate, GMAT score, and taking into account other factors. Then we will move on, after we have narrowed down to the B school, then we will move on to the next process, that is how to successfully apply in those schools, what each school looks for, and how to tune your application towards the philosophy for that school. Then we will move on to our second last section, which is what is your life and during the MBA and post MBA. So you guys must, everybody should be worried about, like the OPT period that you get after MBA, how easy it is to get job in those time, and what happens if you don't get job, what are the immigration policies, and you should all be aware of that so that you make a sound decision. Then we will move on to our last session, which is a Q&A, where we will have an open-ended question round so that we can clear out everything. So hello Anand. So we will I would like to welcome Anand once again, and thanks for joining, Anand. So Anand will be pursuing his MBA from Rotterdam School of Management, and he has worked across various industries, starting from consulting to being an entrepreneur. And then he has, yes Anand.
I can take it up from here.
Oh sure, great.
Yeah. Can I share my screen?
Sure.
Just give me a second, guys. First of all, I would like to thank Rajiv for this fantastic introduction to GMATWhiz. And I would only like to say that the way GMAT is an adaptive exam, GMATWhiz is an adaptive course. The mistake that we do is we keep focusing on our stronger areas And what we see during the GMAT exam is that we face those questions in which we are really not comfortable, and we are really weak in those areas. So GMATWhiz course really makes sure that you focus on your weaker areas and you practice the harder questions. Because when we aim for 650, we would think that we would get medium difficulty level question, but the questions that we get are harder. So GMATWhiz is a fantastic course, and there's a free course also on the website, I think. So you guys make sure to check it out. And thank you, Rajiv, for introducing me. So I'll start again from the previous slide. That what are the major focus areas? Can you guys see my screen, right? Yeah, I think you can.
Yeah, sure. We are able to see the screen.
Okay. Yeah. How to choose the B schools? And sorry, this is another one. Just a second. Sorry about this mistake. I'm quite used to Zoom though. Just a second.
So Abhimanyu, I see your question over there, that how and which way to approach schools. So we will be discussing that in further part of the session. And 9 round of 3 IMD Switzerland. Okay, so I see comments that people are not able to see the screen. Okay, so I am able to see the screen. I guess we should run a quick poll and see that.
Can you see? Yeah, can you see the screen? Major focus areas.
Can you? So guys, please quickly just I would love to have your answers if you're able to see the screen. Okay, so we have yes coming around. Great to see that. Okay, yeah, all right. So we are good to go. And thank you guys.
Thank you, Rajiv, for making sure that it's working fine. Yeah. So first of all, I would really want to talk about European MBA. That this is one of the major areas that we'll be covering, and write B school for you. How to write those applications which actually make through the cut, because B schools receive around on an average 2,000 to 3,000 applications, and they select about 45 to 150 odd students. So what does that really take? And we have a lot of myths running around that once we are in MBA, everything is sorted. Only GMAT score matters. No, it's nothing like that. And then definitely the most important part is the questions that you'll ask. So about me, currently I'm pursuing my MBA from Rotterdam School of Management, Erasmus University. This is in Rotterdam City in Netherlands. I've completed about 2 terms in the MBA and starting my 3rd term. In about 3 more months, my MBA will be over. So I don't know everything about it, but yeah, a little bit I can tell from what I see after standing here. Second is that a little bit about my profile. So I have about 6 years of work experience. I started my career as a consultant in automobile domain. Then when I felt that, I have learned pretty much from there. Then I went on to start my own business. It was in New Delhi. And before COVID, I was one of those fortunate people who could see something going wrong in the industry, and I was able to sell my business. And then I decided to go for an international MBA. And about that, I'll talk later. So I was fortunate to be in touch with the founders of GMATWhiz, and they really guided me well to target the right B schools here in Europe and in India, and I was able to convert. And then after that, I have been helping candidates like myself who are not really well at breaking the 700 barrier on the GMAT, but those candidates have been fortunate enough to crack their dream B schools. I've helped candidates write their applications for Indian schools, for interviews for Indian schools, and also for many schools in the EU and in especially in the US after that. Okay, so now comes the part where I'll talk a little bit more about myself. So why did I decide to go for an international MBA? This is a very important decision, guys. So you really need to know that why you want to go for an MBA. The reason for me was that I wanted to start a career outside India. And MBA.
Sorry to cut you out, Anand, but I see comments. People are not able to hear you clearly. I guess they want you to speak a little bit louder.
Okay. I'll speak a bit louder. Is it clearer now, guys? Can you hear me better now, Rajiv?
Yeah. I think it should be fine now. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So there was a clear why behind my decision to go for an international MBA, and that was That was that I wanted to start a career outside India, and MBA seemed to be a perfect bridge in that disconnect which I had, because my entire life was here, my job was here, my experience was here, and I was not from a technology background where where my employer would send me abroad. So I was feeling these kind of facing these kind of challenges, and so this MBA did help is helping me in bridging that gap. The next is so when I decided to go for international MBA, then came the biggest hurdle of my life. That was the GMAT, and I think you guys are already at the right platform in this webinar of GMATWhiz, where Rajiv has already given a fantastic introduction about how adaptive the course is and how it actually tailors your preparation plan for you. So, but having said that, GMAT is not everything. So we have a perception that unless I have a 720, 730, 740 on the GMAT, I am not eligible for these schools or something like that. That's not completely right, I would say. Like I have a 660 on the GMAT, and I did put in like 3 or 4 months of hard work in that, but I couldn't cross the 700 barrier. Yeah, that's a failure, I would say. But that is not a failure when you want to write your B school applications. So GMAT is a part of your application, a part. There come, and then there are other parts. For example, your CV, your application, your job experience, your experience that you have so far, and the biggest part is how you portray a combination of everything in your application. So we'll talk a lot about that. So after I gave the GMAT, and I received the score of 660, I was not very happy with myself, but I made a decision that I'll still apply with this score because I believed in my profile. I thought that I don't have a typical profile which lands in a competitive, highly competitive pool. So I would give it a try, and I think that was a good decision that I took. So I applied to a bunch of schools in EU and also in Britain. And now I need to mention it separately. Yeah. So I applied to about 2-3B schools in the UK, then about 2-3B schools in Germany, one school in Netherlands, and a bunch in France, and also to some of the IIMs in India. And after the school selection, I was fortunate that for most of my applications, my application was able to make the cut. And I would again thank the team of GMATWhiz because they really helped me with that. And they helped me in putting out the best and the strongest points in my application. And that is why with a mediocre GMAT score, I was able to make the cut. So application and interviews are really, really important because they really know who the person is behind this CV, behind this application. So I was able to bring those parts out in my interviews. So that is pretty much it. Now I'll start with the main part of the presentation.
Yeah, Anand, please make the presentation full screen because I have seen these comments. Yes,
is it not?
You can put it on the slideshow. Yeah, the screen is appearing on the full screen, but it's not on the slideshow. That's why the text is not visible clearly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just, all right. Okay.
Yeah, now it's clear. Yes.
Is it clear now?
Yes.
Okay. So we were here, and now we're going to move forward.
Exactly.
Pros and cons of European MBA. What are that? First is costs and ROI. If I talk about a typical B school in the US, it's going to cost around 100,000 USD or more than that actually. In INR, that converts to about 80 lakhs to 1 crores. And then comes the cost of your living there, your regular expenses there. So it crosses 1.5 crores. However, if you do that in Europe, your average cost for your MBA will not be more than 50 lakhs, even if you go to really premium schools, leaving NCR aside. And the average cost to live here during your MBA shouldn't be more than 10 to 12 lakhs. Even if you do Golan, it will be more around 15 to 16 lakhs. So your total MBA cost comes between 60 to 75 lakhs. And that is when you're going to really expensive schools. If you go to schools in Germany, then this cost would come down to 40 lakhs or 45 lakhs. So this is a very, very important, I think, plus here. Moving on. So there is always an opportunity cost, like one valuable year of your life. So most of the B schools offer 1 year MBA program here. However, if you go to the US, uh, or if you go to like MBA programs in India, most of the programs are for 2 years. So in 1 year, if you just take the average salary, you can earn around 50 lakh rupees, right, in the Europe. And that is just not earning for 1 year. You should also consider your potential income that you would make in that 1 year if you're not but working. So that is another very major positive thing I would say. Third is, I think countries in the EU have one of the most friendliest immigration laws on the planet. If I talk about Germany, if you have been in Germany for if you have worked in Germany for 21 months, you are eligible for a blue card. If you have been in the Netherlands for 5 years, where I live currently, you are eligible to apply for the citizenship. So you don't have a sort of uncertainty hanging on your neck whether you get a green card or not, or whether you will get selected for that lottery of H-1B visa or not. If you land a job here and your employer is ready to sponsor your visa, you will get the visa. The laws are pretty straightforward. There are no doubts around those sections which you would normally worry about, especially in the US. Moving forward, job security, I would say, is really good in EU. For example, during COVID, most of the Dutch companies did not fire their employees. Most of the German companies did not fire their employees, because if they would have to give around 6 to 9 months of notice. So that's a very long notice period, and your employer cannot just fire you because of a random reason, which happens a lot in India and elsewhere. So job security is really high. If you have a permanent job contract, employers would prefer to not to fire you, but to move you to training program or to different things, so that you improve your performance. So firing is not exactly a major thing. I'm not saying that people don't get fired; they do, but probably not as much as they would get in the other countries, especially in the Western Europe, which accounts for Germany, Luxembourg, Belgium, and Netherlands, and also France. Uh, European countries have one of the highest standards of living, even though your savings are a little less. But the quality of life here is much better, especially your work-life balance. If that is something which you value in your life, which is something which we discount a lot in India and China and Asian countries, uh, but here work-life balance really means something. For example, it is rare that you would get a reply from somebody from your workplace after Friday evening, or before Monday morning, or after work hours. And for example, um, um, I was renting out a place here, and my property agent told me to come on Monday morning, even though I was here on a Saturday. So I so it works in a negative way as well. But when you are working there as a professional, it is expected to work in your favor, and you are expected to have a really good work-life balance here. And this is something which we shouldn't discount. So now comes a little bit of con, is that yes, uh, learning local language is not a must, but people do have to do that once they start moving forward in their lives for social reason, or to move higher in the ladder, in the corporate ladder. Because like RSM, where I study, or many of my friends study in German schools and French schools, the school does not expect you to learn the local language within a year. For example, in Netherlands, it's Dutch, German in Germany, French in France. People don't expect you to learn the local language your first job. People do land their first jobs. Almost all the people land their first jobs without learning the local language, because there are many international companies uh, which uh, which want immigrants, and English is the medium of communication. However, to integrate more in the society, in the community, and then to get in more local customer related roles, for example, sales, business development, or in consulting roles which are focused on the local markets, people do need to learn the languages. However, having said that, this is not one of the most difficult things to do. Uh, I think it takes about 3 months to cross one level of the language, and there are about 6 levels: A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. So If sometime this is manageable. And the last part is higher cost of living. Yeah, European countries have one of the most highest have among the highest living costs, and compared to the US, you would save approximately 25 to 30% lesser. This is about savings, not about your life. Uh, yeah, so that is one of the things here. But if you trade that off for the quality of life, job security, immigration laws, like there is no uncertainty that you will be asked to go back to your country. No, it doesn't work like that. So you do pay a little bit higher to live here, but the other wonderful factors are here. So these are the pros and cons of not particularly of European MBA, but of European education. And yeah, one of the things that I would want to mention about European MBA, which I forgot to list here, is European schools focus a lot on diversity. What do I mean by diversity? I have 153 students in my class, and I think we have more than 44 nationalities. So just imagine working in this kind of environment, brainstorming with these kind of people. If you have a management problem, let's try sustainability in food and beverage industry, packaging industry, and try and just think what kind of discussions you will have when you hear such different point of views, and then you also get to learn a lot on personal level. Uh, and it's a beautiful thing that to know how things work across the globe. It's like whole world sitting in one classroom. So European B schools focus a lot on city, and diversity doesn't only mean nationality, also about the background. Like we have doctors, people from armed forces, people from government services, like a bunch of people from everywhere. So European schools focus a lot on diversity, and this diversity adds wonderful skills to you, which you can sell in the job market. So that's a big plus. And I'll move on. Choosing the right European. All right, so I've said all the beautiful things before now. Now coming to the most practical part. So how to exactly find these B schools, which are really good and are ready to accept you at a mediocre GMAT score? Let's move on. First thing is about location and industry. So, like for me, MBA is a bridge between the place where I want to live and work and where I am right now, and also if I want to shift the industry. So it is important that you research a bit. You you Google and go to Wikipedia and find out more about the kind of countries there are and the place you would want to go. That is the first place, or first factor, and relate it with the dominant industries over there. For example, the UK is really good for finance and IT, and then we have Netherlands, which is really good, good for supply chain, and then we have Germany. Germany is really good for general management industry and supply chain, and yeah, sustainability also goes in the UK, and plus consulting. And then we have Spain. Spain is really good for consulting, general management, and then we have Switzerland, which is also very good for supply chain and sustainability related roles. And then as we move towards the southern part, when you come to Italy and France, and like fashion and retail markets are huge over there. And then you have IT, which fits well in German and Dutch market, and also in UK. So just look at the kind of industry you want to work for. Don't relate it with the industry you're coming from, because most students come to these schools for transitioning their career. By transition, I mean transition your industry, transition your seniority level, and also transition your role. For example, if in an IT company I'm working program manager, then I have that I want to work for an FMCG company, as FMCG company, maybe in marketing. So I will be entering at a different level in that marketing profile. So those are two switches. Then third is the industry. So look at the kind of industry you want to work for. Look at how dominant that industry is in that country. So that is the first factor. Moving on, finances and cohort background. This makes one of the most important points here. So costs versus average salary. By average salary, I do not mean what the schools list on their websites, because in such diverse cohorts, such diverse batches, they have a person who has only about 4 years of work experience but has 780 on the GMAT. and they have a person who has 16 years of work experience and is now among the top management or senior management in the company and hasn't even given the GMAT. So averages are a bit skewed always. So what you do, if you have targeted a few countries, just look for look for fresh MBA graduates in that country on LinkedIn, and have a discussion with them about the school and about how's the average salary in this sector, that sector, and that's how you'll get it. So average salary is about 50,000 euros to 65,000 euros, which translates to 45 lakhs to about 50 to 60 lakhs. So that is the average salary. And there's also the costs that you incur for that MBA, almost all. So you have to make sure that that your ROI is intact, that you can make up that amount of money in 1 year or 1 month. So that accounts for costs and average salary. Now comes the second most important point. That is your profile and profile of people in the current batch or from the pre batches from your target B schools. So let's say I want to do my MBA at Mannheim Business School in Germany, and I have about 7 years of work experience. I work in advertising uh, in ed tech startups. So I have a work experience of startups for about 7 years and advertising and marketing. So do people from advertising end up in that school? Do people from startups and their own ventures end up in that school? So this is another interesting thing to look at. Whether like me are selected by that school or not, or am I just wasting my time? So go to that school's LinkedIn portal and try to contact people who are in the current cohort who have just passed out from that school, and people are really helpful here. So just send them a message on LinkedIn and try to see try to learn what's their background. Or if you don't want to make that much of effort, go to their LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn page, the school's LinkedIn page, and there you'll find their current cohort. Just look at the LinkedIn profiles of the current of the people in their current cohort, current batch, and you will see that. So if you feel that, yeah, there is a slight connect, not 100% connect, but slight connect. Yeah, people with somewhat profile like you have ended up there, then probably you can also make it. Moving on, network and accreditations. This is one of the most important thing, alumni network. So most of the B schools in outside India, I would say, not just Europe, don't have a formal placement drive like we have in India. Companies don't always come here with job offers for the students of a particular B school. No, you have to find your own job. And where do you get these jobs from? You get it from the alumni network. I'll talk about how to find a job later, but alumni network is really important. So let's say after MBA, I want to work in Pepsi, or let's say after MBA, I want to work for a bunch of investment banks. So in those investment banks, can I find people from that B school? If yes, then good. Also, when I talk to admissions department of the school, then what does that person tell me? That do they have just one batch of MBA students passed out so far, or there are about 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, or 10,000, or even more people who have done MBA at their B school and are ready to connect with me over LinkedIn or other networking platforms. So alumni network is one of the most important things. So you should definitely check whether the school has a good alumni network or not. Moving on. So these are kind of rankings and certifications, and this is the last point that I'm putting here because we are always biased by the rankings. And I'll be really honest with you, apart from a few, most of the rankings are purchased by the B schools. So don't always just look blindly at a number. Oh, this school is number one. This school is in top 10, top 50. No, it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry to break that myth here. Is that even if you're from top 10 B school, you might end up without a job. Even if you're from a school which has ranked 177th on your ranking portal, you might end up with a job which is north of 100K. Like you might make more than 1 crore a year. So these rankings are not the right parameter to look at, but just look at the most famous ones. And you should look for accreditations that the schools have. So these are the 3 famous accreditations. Make sure that the school you are applying to has at least 2 of them. The schools that I'll be discussing with you right now, We'll have three of them. And these are based on the feedback of the current students, on the strictness of their academic standards, and feedback from the industry. So at times schools keep losing on one or two, but make sure that they have had these accreditations over past over past 4 to 5 years. So I'll just quickly revise. First is location and industry. You should try to know the country you're going to live in. You should try to focus on the industry you would want to work for. You might not know it, but just keep a bunch. Then finances. Your cost and your average salary should be in parallel. In 1 year or 1.5 years, you should be able to earn that money back what you have invested in your MBA. Otherwise, it is just a huge debt that you've taken on yourself. So don't do that. Third is your profile, your current experience so far should be somewhat more or less similar to what the people in the cohort have in those B schools. And how do you find it? Through LinkedIn, by asking for contacts from admissions and marketing team of those B schools. So don't be shy in doing that. Then Alumni Network, the most important thing. Make sure to find out what is the depth and how many alumni are there in, and how many alumni from those schools work in your target industry if you have one. Otherwise, in the group of industries where you would see yourself working. And then focus a little bit on ranking and on accreditations. All right, now let's move to how to write successful applications once I have these schools. Rajiv, I would just want to confirm audio, video, everything's clear, right? I would assume that everything's clear, right?
Yes,
Okay.
Anand, everything is fine.
All right, thank you, Rajiv. So the first step in writing your successful application is that you have to apply to a bunch of schools. You would be impractical if you apply only to your dream B schools, because you also want to get an MBA. And like me, you are someone who didn't breach the top GMAT score barrier. So realistic and dream B schools. So you should have your dream B schools in your target. You should make applications for those B schools, but you should also have some safety nets which might catch you if you are not able to make the cut in that top B school. So what would be that mix? All right. So I have done this little bit of work for you. So these are some of the schools which I would recommend to apply with a score which is between 640, 680, 690, something like that. Like even if you keep a bracket of 600 to 700, these are not bad B schools to apply. These are really good B schools. These schools have amazing alumni network. These schools have people in top management of most big companies, most Fortune 500 companies. These schools are well recognized by big fours in the consulting industry, if you want to know. And these B schools are well known in their community, their country, and people respect you if you are from one if you are an MBA candidate from one of these schools. For example, Mannheim in Germany is amongst the best German B schools, and also doesn't really expect you to be be with really high GMAT. If you have a well-rounded profile, they're ready to get you in. RSM, I'm here. In my cohort, we have people without GMAT and also people with 740 GMAT or 740, 760 GMAT. So it's a well-rounded profile again. Then ESMT Berlin. This also starts in January. Then Frankfurt School of Financial Management. I would say this is a treasure which not people have explored. So make sure to go to their website and explore about it. This is one of the best schools in Frankfurt, and really good for finance and IT. And then we have WHU. WHU is really good for consulting. And although they value GMAT a bit more than RSM would or Frankfurt would, but they also look at your profile. And then we have HEC. HEC, I think, is amongst the best schools in Europe, and they really look at your high GMAT score and a well-rounded application. Then we have IE, Cast Business School, EDHEC, and I forgot to put here ESSEC, also from France. And HH in Germany is one of the good safety nets. It is a very good B school. Then we move to the UK. So I already mentioned about CAST, Warwick Business School, Cranfield. You can also apply to Manchester and the University of Edinburgh, right? So these schools, you may or may not find these schools in top 5, top 6 rankings. but you will always find them in respective in very respectful positions when you look at rankings. And when you go to their website and you check out their alumni network, they have good alumni networks. They have really good qualified faculty members, and a well-rounded academic program, which also incorporates a lot of practical stuff. And when you talk to people from these two schools, either people from their career center or the admissions marketing team, or people who study in these schools, the candidates, you will feel that yes, most people do land good jobs, like the kind of jobs they're targeting. And average salary would be somewhere between, I think, 55,000 euros to 120,000 euros, which is approximately 50 lakhs to 1.2 crores. So these schools do help you achieve your goal if it is to find a good job in the other part of the world. So so this is a different lens when you, to look at B schools, because what we do most of the time, we just look at Financial Times rankings, or we just open an admission consultants page and we just look at their ranking, and that is how we decide 1 to 3. Or one of the mistakes that we do is that we go to a local counselor uh, and ask for his or her recommendation about the schools, and then that counselor would scare you that, hey, in class 10th you did not have 80%, or your GPA in your undergraduate degree is not above 3.5 or 3, so you may not be a good candidate for a German MBA, or for a for any MBA from the UK. So don't do that. Don't do it to local counselors, because they really don't know the industry, right? Focus on what you want and whether the school can deliver it or not. Then yes, it is a good B school. And to be very honest, in Europe, all the courses are treated as more or less a master's degree. If you have an MBA, or even if you have some other, let's say, MSc, you are treated as a person with a master's degree, and then it's more about your skills. I will talk about the skills in the coming part. So focus on what you want and whether the school can deliver it to you or not. If it can, then include that school in your target list. I'm not discouraging you from keeping your keeping your dream B school, for example, INSEAD, HEC, Lenovo School, or Harvard, of Oxford, Stanford. I'm not discouraging you from keeping these B schools in your list, but I'm also encouraging you to keeping the other schools, excuse me, other schools in your list, which will help you realize your career goal. Moving on. So this was the first step, to make sure that you have a realistic list, which includes your dream schools and realistic and other safety nets. Now the second step, once you have this list, then make sure that you try to talk. By talking, I just don't mean exchange of emails. No, have a Zoom call, have a phone call with admissions team and alumni, or the current students in the cohort. So how does that help? How does admission? I will tell you some of the funny benefits or advantages that you can have if you talk to admissions team. Let's say you are someone who has about 10 to 12 years of experience in finance industry, and while you are pursuing your job in finance, you also tried to explore your luck in CFA or CA, and you cleared 1 or 2 levels of that. When you tell that to a B school, an admissions team of your target B school, and if they really want somebody from, if they don't already have a lot of good applications from people from finance background, they might waive off your application fee. I also know the stories where schools have just waived off MAT requirement for students, and those are not bad B schools. Those are really good B schools I'm talking about. So talking to admission teams always helps. They get to know you, and it is good for you, because they will be somebody, their team will be evaluating your profile when you write to them. Somebody from your team, maybe that person you talk to will show up in your may show up in your interview, right? So it is very good to have a very friendly rapport with them, exchange a couple of emails with them, then ask them that, hey, I would want to know more about your school, and I would want to know more whether I'm a good fit, whether I am going to be a good fit for your cohort or not. So can we have a Zoom chat? And they're very open to it. That is their job. Like, come on, they work in admissions and marketing team. They want more bright applicants for their school, right? So they're really willing to do it. So don't be shy in doing that. When you talk to them, try to discuss about the things that, so I'm a good candidate. Any chance can you waive off the application fee for me? Application fee is usually £100 to £200. 100 euros to 200 euros, which is 10,000 to 20,000 rupees. So don't be shying away don't be shy, don't be shy in asking for these kind of discounts. They will. And ask them that, hey, I'm really occupied in my job. My work is really important. It's critical for my client. So I'm not finding the time to prepare for this GMAT exam. Can you give me some sort of waiver, or can you postpone it for me? Or is there any alternative test? So they might agree on that as well. Some schools might not, but some schools will. And the third thing that you can talk to the admissions team is about scholarships. Before putting in your application, if they really like you, they might tell you there and then that, hey, this is the form. Don't forget to fill out this form for the scholarships. Or just talk to them, hey, what are the different kinds of scholarships do you have? Do you think something might work out for a profile like I have? And they will be very happy to discuss it with you. Now, the second part is talking to current students. This has two really, really good benefits. First is that, let us say that you think that 1B school is really good, and you have heard good stories about people graduating from those schools, about good life after those B schools, and you think that, yes, this is the B school I want to be at. But that might not be the real picture. That school might be really good at marketing itself. So when you talk to the current students, you get the real picture of what it is to be, what it is like to be a student at that B school, whether that school really values that MBA program, or that is just a cash cow for them. So you get the realistic picture, and those students might also tell you better, like about some better B schools, or more efficient programs for you. For example, every B school costs about 50 lakh rupees here, the fee. And there could be some other B schools which might cost just 25 to 30 lakhs in the same country or same region, and will help you the same amount in achieving your career goal. So make sure that you talk to the current students and get their feedback. Another advantage that you get by doing so is that these students might be able to help you in getting in touch with the right person in the admissions team. So you can write even better applications. These students can help you in focusing on the right areas in your application, at which the school also focuses. For example, for RSM, it is about sustainability. In Netherlands, people are really cautious about how to be sustainable around environment, around work culture practices. So if you talk about sustainability, that's a plus for you. And how would you show sustainability in your profile so far? So that is another point to make your application stand out. So talking to the students helps you get information about the real picture of the school, helps you get points about which you want to talk about in your application. The third way it has is that you can mention that, hey, I spoke to Anand from RSM, and so when somebody from admissions team would hear the name, they would think that, oh yeah, this guy is really thorough. This girl has really done his research. So will value you even more. And the fourth way this can help you is that once you come to the business school, you will anyway have to do a lot of networking. So this already establishes your first foot in the networking field, right? You will have to talk to a bunch of people to land your first job, right? So this already opens that gate for you. It already gets you in that uncomfort zone. So how do you do that? Again, LinkedIn is the best way to go for it. Otherwise, schools their ambassadors. You can get in touch with them. That you can find that about that to the websites of the schools. But I would still say that LinkedIn is one of the best tools you have, and you can access about that. Every school has its own page, and in that page you can access the members of that page, which usually are the current students and alumni. So admissions team and current students. Moving on. Now comes the most trickiest part. That is writing an application, and people are really scared by that. People have a lot of myths around this, and so let's talk about this. So your application, your statement of purpose, or the answer to your question of why do you want to do this MBA, or why this B school will help you in meeting your career goal, the answer to these questions is not your CV. No. If you say that, hey, I have worked for 10 years as a consultant, then I was promoted and I joined as a subject matter expert in this company, and I have led this IT project across multinational clients and all that. No, that is not your application. That is your CV. While leading that IT project or working as consultant for 10 years, you would have learned some skills. What are those skills? For example, conflict management, people management, uh, tra- uh, transition expert, or vendor management, stakeholder management. Those are some professional skills that you have learned. Just think about it, that what you are really good at in your work, what you really enjoy. Yes, those are your strengths and those are the skills that you develop. You need to talk about those when you write an application. When there is a question, what let's say there is a guy called Saurabh. What makes Saurabh stand out as a B school applicant from others? Then Saurabh should write about, if Saurabh is experienced in let's say stakeholder management and conflict resolution, then Saurabh should write that I feel that I am good at managing stakeholders, and I have managed stakeholders from different countries and different backgrounds, and I really understand what they need. So in a B school, I would be able to understand the needs of my team members, the needs of my professors, and other programs that I would be associated with, and I think I'll be able to um, deliver what is needed in much better way than anybody else would. Right. So you're talking about your skills. You're not bragging about what you have done in your career so far. Then school, another part which is very important is your life story. They really want to know you through your application. They already have a CV to know about your professional and academic qualifications. So talk about your life story, where you grew up, what are the values that you learned in life. For example, I would talk about my application. I grew up in northern part of India, and as a kid, I was thoroughly inspired for a career in IT, only to realize that I was not made for that. So then there was a moment for introspection and think that what I really want to do, and that gave me a chance to experiment with myself. And after working for 6 years, I realized that I want to work in sustainability. So just a more bridging over there. Like I've just rushed through 6 years, not like that. A little bit bridging over there. Then we did that. Then I learned this and that. So talk about your life story in your application because they really want to know you. After that, you should also talk about your personal qualities. What are your personal qualities? You are a person of value. You value work ethics. You care for others. You care for sustainability and the environment. You're a really good chef. You're an amazing musician. They want to know the real you. How will your presence enhance the value of their MBA program for everybody else as well? They just don't want an investment banking specialist. They want a person, a well-rounded person. So you have to focus on the skills that you have learned, how your life story is amazing for yourself, and what are personal qualities which makes you a wonderful person that you are. So these are the three main areas you should definitely uh, focus on while writing application. One of the big mistakes that we do is that we prepare one statement of purpose. We went to Ahmedabad website and we looked at their question, okay, statement of purpose, and then we copy paste that statement of purpose to all other application. Or we take one paragraph from that application, that SOP, and copy paste it to everybody everywhere else. Don't do that mistake. Every school has a different focus. One school focuses on expertise in finance, one school focuses on sustainability, one school focuses on United Nations goals. So make sure that you know what the school is looking for. Edit your statement of purpose or your essays according to the focus of that school and how you as a person value what the school values and how your career will transition because of that school. So that is a lot of customizations, right? While keeping these three things in mind: skills, life story, personal. Don't just copy paste one SOP all across. That doesn't work. Next thing is that reference letters are really, really important. And I think we pay little attention to that. Um, how can we improve it? Is that you you have like most of the schools allow you to access the reference letter format and send it to different stakeholders. For example, your boss, your client, or your previous professors. So discuss with your referees a little bit that what exactly is coming, and also discuss with them how important this MBA is for you. And uh, and when you do that, try to share some of your strengths about which you want them to talk about you while writing those reference letters. For example, I requested my boss to talk about my team leadership skills and my my stakeholder management skills when I was applying to RSM, and she was kind enough to do so. Because if you are a good person and if your boss doesn't really hate you, ex-boss especially, then why would he or she not help you, right? Or if getting in touch with your boss is difficult, just ask some senior person in your team who can evaluate your performance, right? So if it comes from your direct supervisor or direct client, that is the best. Even if your relations with those people are not so strong, then somebody senior in your team or some previous client that you have worked with, that also works. But make sure that you discuss with them that this thing is coming, and you want them to talk about your which of your strengths, and also make sure that you mention some of your areas of improvements, because these reference letters also want the referees to talk about some of your weaknesses. And when you mention that, hey, okay, I take a lot of stress, so I'm talking to my boss, hey, can you write this reference letter for me? Then can you mention that I'm good at stakeholder management, conflict resolution, and I'm a very good team player. But if you get a question about my weakness, can you say that I take a lot of stress, but I'm trying to work on it. So try to positive end to the to your weaknesses, right? I'm not talking about I'm not talking about having pointless weaknesses. No, talk about your real weaknesses which you have as a human being, because that is another parameter for these schools to check whether you are a well-rounded human being or not, because every human being has some weaknesses, right? So these are the good points to keep a note of when you talk about references, application and references. Moving on, and the most important part while writing your MBA application or while having your reference letters being written is that there has to be a consistency, that why do you want to leave your well-paying job to go for this very expensive MBA program? Why do you have such a desperate need? So in your essays, you can talk about points like that. After working for about 7 years, I realized that there is a gap in my skills. I don't really understand the international perspective to a larger extent. I understand to some extent that I can. I understand this to a limited extent, that I can work with these people for about 4 to 5 months, 6 months. But I really need to learn more. Focus. We have and so I'm going to this B school for learning. So in your reference letter, also your boss talks about this this weakness that you have, that he needs to get an international exposure, although he has been trying to work on it. But I think this MBA program will help him a lot, right? So there has to be a consistency in why MBA, and this consistency should also reflect in your interviews with the schools. So the answer to why MBA should be a reflex for you, and it should always be consistent, not be the same, but be consistent. That hey, I want an international exposure and I want to transition my career to Europe. So that is why I want to go for an international MBA, right? So like if in your application you say that I want to work on my leadership skills, and then in your interview you say that I want to go for an MBA for my international experience. So these are two different contradicting things, right? So if you want to add some points to it, add some points to it, but make sure that there is some consistency at least, because again, a well-rounded person will have a consistency in his or her life, and these schools look for a well-rounded, balanced human being. Moving on. So most of the schools have two-step interview process. First step is doesn't have another person at the end of it, and that is done through either Kira interview or some other interviewing platform that they have. And there you would have a recorded question for yourself, about 2 or 3 recorded questions, one of which is usually written, two of which are usually recorded, and so you have to prepare yourself to talk to a screen. So give about 3 to 4 days of preparations for interview process, at least 3 to 4 days of time. And what would you talk about it? What would you talk about during this kind of interview? So one of the first things that you should definitely focus on is situation-based questions. For example, I would ask you, hey Raghav, please tell me about a time when you were working in a team and there was a conflict. What did you do about it? So Raghav should be able to give me an example that hey, I was working in this team in food tech industry, and my team had people from sales and marketing people, and we really had a difference of opinion about what kind of clients we should target. And then I was the person to bring everybody in the team together on the same level of understanding. Then I made sure that everybody moved together towards a common goal. So this is a situation-based question and a situation-based answer. So it has to be a little more specific than what I told you right now. Uh, and there can be hundreds of such questions. So don't be shy in preparing examples for these kind of situations. So go to GMAT Club or some other resource if you have. Try to look for these kind of interview questions, and you will find a bunch of questions like that. And prepare examples from your own life. And don't paint yourself as a saint in while answering these questions, because these schools know that you lack something. That is why you're coming to them for a transition in your career, right? So while answering some of these questions, you can also talk about some of your failures, your learnings, but prepare for situation-based questions, because these are like gray areas where nothing is right or wrong, but what you say should make sense, right? So moving on, you should have about 2 minutes to 2.5 minutes of intro about yourself. And again, your introduction about yourself. If somebody asks me, hey Anand, tell me about yourself, so the answer which I should give to this question about myself is not a reiteration of my CV, is not a reiteration of my resume. No, he already has my CV, resume, and application, right? He wants to know further more about me, so he wants to know who am I. What I should talk about in these kind of questions is that I want to I want to cover my professional journey as well as personal journey, like who am I, and then I should also talk about some of the passions that I have in my life. For example, I'm a civil engineer. I have worked with L&T for about 10 years, and I have led projects not only in India but also in some different countries. I have worked on construction projects, I have worked on design projects. And while I was doing that, I was to work in different teams, and I learned a lot about the world while working in these teams. I learned how people in China are different from Indian people, and I also learned that it is so good to be direct when I work with Western people, because as an Asian, I was not really direct in my approach. And I think the team of these people had a really good time while working with me, because I'm a good musician. I'm also a great chef. So I kept everybody entertained and well fed while they were working with me. So this is just a funny example. No, don't go so funny. But it has to be a mix of everything. So you have known in these 70 seconds that yes, I'm a civil engineer. I have worked across continents. I have worked in different teams. I have uh, I'm not bad at interacting with people from different countries, and I'm also passionate about music and cooking, right? So the answer to your about yourself question is, they really want to know you as a person. They just don't want to know about your professional or academic background, or about your social and personal life. It has to be a mix of everything. So just go a little bit beyond what you have offered in your CV and applications. Moving on. Uh, Maintain consistency in why MBA, because you will be asked this question in the second part of your interview, which is in-person interview, is that why do you want to do this MBA? And you should cover a little bit about your application, your CV, your goals, and also the personal values this MBA will add to you. And make sure that this is in consistence with make sure that this is not completely south of what you have written in your application, right? So if in your application you have written that yes, you want to do this MBA for international exposure, you talk about that as well. So this covers up for this part interview. What we have learned about applying to B schools is that you apply to realistic B schools, then you talk to admissions team, you also talk to their alumni and current students. While writing application, you focus on your skills, your life story, your personal qualities, very important. Then you should have strong reference letters and realistic reference letters. Like, your boss shouldn't be just saying that you were the best employee in the company. No, then why isn't he giving you the raise you want? Why do you want to come for an MBA? Right? So realistic strengths and weaknesses, but in an optimistic way. Consistency in why MBA throughout your application, interview process, situation based, your about yourself question, a mix of everything about you, not just a professional reiteration of your CV. And then again, consistency in why do you want to do this MBA. Ooh, now let's come to the final part of this presentation, like the second final part, the second last part, is that how do you exactly get your jobs here, and how does your life look like after that? So I am currently in this phase. I have started to apply for jobs here, and I'm facing some of the headwinds. Some people are really nice, so I'll talk about that. Networking from day one, internship route, preparing well for on-campus recruitments, starting early, EU versus non-EU candidates. Why did I not put an animation in the slide, and why did I make sure that everything appears at once? Because that is how the job market is. You have to do everything at once. So, like this, a very funny thing, funny and stupid thing to do, but I have still taken your liberty to do so here, is that from the moment you step into the campus, or even before that, before my admission, I started talking to people from RSM. Right, that is my networking strategy. I have to make sure that I talk to as many people as possible, as much as I have time, to know about their industry, the kind of work they do. Networking for is a different lecture altogether, and I'm sure you will get that in your B school. So make sure that you network as much as you can. LinkedIn is the best tool for networking. Then, after having worked for 10 years, 7 years, people don't often want to go for internships. Like I had this, excuse me for a second. Like I had this hesitation that, hey, I've worked for so many years. I have owned my own business. Why should I go for internship? Have I worked in Europe? No. Have I worked in the new sustainability industry I want to work for? No. So what am I in this industry? Am I a fresher? Not really a fresher, because I do have some really good skills which I've gained over 6 to 7 years in my work, and I come from this good B school, and which has prepared me for all the challenges in the world. But internship helps me to understand their industry and to let them know what I bring for their company. So I am starting to look for jobs and internships both. So internships are not bad ways to get you a job. Third thing is preparing for on-campus recruitment. This is a fairly small proportion when it comes to the total number of jobs that students get here, because this is campus placements are not really a thing here, not particularly in my school, but in most of the schools here, and also in the US and Canada. So, but some of these campus placements do happen. What I have seen students do here, which is wrong, is when they are in the MBA program, they get a bit relaxed. They don't read all of the emails which are sent to this through their career center and through their placement. Like they don't really have placement services, but career coaches they have. So they're career coaches, and they do not make use of all the resources available on the university's website, university's premises, and some of the job postings do come on the university websites. So make sure that you keep a track of that, because when you're applying through the university portal, then you're competing against a very small pool. If you're applying directly on the company portal, you're competing against hundreds of other applications, right? So networking, internship, keeping an eye for your university resources, and fourth is starting early. Like my MBA program will be over in December. This is June, right? And I have already started for my job application, and I am late. Today only I met another Indian friend of mine who's here, and he has already landed a job. So, and he started, I think, maybe in April. So start early. The earlier you start, the better it is, because you will not be writing applications in April, March, but you will be while interacting for your job, you will be getting to know what kind of challenges you face. So it gets easier at the end. One of the most realistic things I'll tell you is that people don't go back from their business schools, from the countries of their business schools to their home countries, not because the B school is not capable of enabling them to find a job, but because after MBA, when they have to spend 3-4 months just for job search, people run out of money, and that is why they have to go back. Not because the school did not empower them with sufficient tools to find the job, because they did not start at the right time. For example, my MBA gets over in December, and then I take 1 month of vacation, and then I start applying for jobs in February. It takes about 3 to 4 months for a process to be complete, and then by June maybe I'll have something, but I've run out of money in March, April. Then I'll have to go back, right? So that is why starting early is really important, and that is one of the myths that, oh, I know this person from that B school, he or she had to come back. She may have come back for this reason, right? If she was not willing to go back, this may have been the reason. So starting early always helps. Then there is always a competition between EU and non-EU candidates, because EU candidates don't really need a bigger sponsored visa, but non-EU candidates need that. But again, having said that, this list of schools that I showed to you, this list, candidates from these schools don't really find it challenging for the companies to sponsor them for their residential visa. And how does that work is, about this visa thing, is that the first job that the students probably get after MBA, most of the students, is a contractual job. It's like it gives you a visa for 1 year or 2 years, and during that 1 years and 2 years, students are able to either convince their current employer for a permanent contract, or are able to find other jobs for a permanent contract. And once you have a permanent contract, then you get resident permit for 1 year, and it gets renewed. You have to just go and get it renewed for another year, until you have come your duration of stay. For example, 21 months in Germany for your blue card, or 5 years in Netherlands for your way towards your citizenship. So it is like that. And visas are not really the most challenging things. Starting early and finding the motivation to write about 50, 60, 70 application is the biggest challenge. So the biggest challenge lies within ourselves and not in the regulations in Europe. In the US, maybe the visa may be the challenging part, but here it is not, to be very honest. But yeah, if you don't have a job, yeah, what happens if you're not able to find a job? So, for example, my visa here is for 18 months. Uh, and after that, this happens so I'm talking about Netherlands, but this also happens in Germany and in France, that your visa usually gets extended gets converted from a student visa to a job seeker's visa, and that duration varies from 1 year to 2 years. That is sufficient amount of time for you to find a job here, and then you can renew your resident permit based on your employment contract. Oh, so that was a lot of lecture about finding a job here. Lecture which included points which I should also focus on and not just tell others to do so. What is your post MBA journey? High job security, clear rules for blue card, bigger job market, high standard of living, work-life balance, networking, and networking. So I think I have covered a little bit of all of these points here. High job security, because employment laws are really, really strict. Nobody can just fire you. It is difficult for companies to fire their employees, because there is about 8 to 9 months of notice period, and there are very strong employee unions, and labor laws are really, really strict. And clear set rules for blue card. Like, for example, people in Germany know, yes, in 2 years they are eligible for that. People in Netherlands know that, yes, I have entered Netherlands on this date. After 5 years, I can just go and apply for my citizenship. And definitely a job market. If you combine, like, there are about 26 countries in the EU, and you will want to work in at least 10 of them, because they are really, really good. And so you find a much bigger job market than compared to just one country. And for example, if you, let's say, go to Sweden, you don't like the weather, it's always cold or rainy, and you want to go to someplace warmer, you can shift to Spain, right? So a much bigger job market, and you can decide. Like, these are the facts coming later in your life. Like, in the very beginning, you will not find them challenging, but after MBA, when you work for about 3-4 years, then these factors might come in, and so you have the flexibility. You will always not be you will always have the option, not always remain stuck in the snow, right? In a cold region, you can move to some other regions if you like, and you have that option. Then I've told you that the standard of living here, the quality of life here is much better post MBA. That is true for most developed countries, and that is something which goes for personal preferences. So I've just put in this slide, just this point there, nothing to put emphasis upon. Then work-life balance is really, really good. 8 hours of your work day really means something here. Companies don't expect you to work on the weekends, and because after your MBA, like, people would be people would after their MBA, people would be aged around 20, 27, 26 to 35, 37, 38, 40 maybe. So you would have other priorities in your life. So this work-life balance will come in play then, and this is really good, especially in Western Europe. And then your networking never stops. So if I have landed my first job, I will not stop networking. I will still try to spend at least 1 hour a week on LinkedIn and try to meet different people. Maybe try to meet one new person from different company every month, so that I know people in different companies, different industries. If I want to shift after 2 to 3 years, then this networking will help me, and this networking never stops. Why do you think people from top management, CEOs, respond to a small LinkedIn message of, "Hey, I want to have a chat with you to know more about your company and your industry"? Why do you think they do that? Because they know that just through their HR portals, they cannot have the brightest of candidates applying to their companies. So they also do a little bit of screening by themselves, and maybe they are also looking for some other opportunities. They maybe, for example, I connect with somebody. I'm a student now. Why would somebody from some company want to connect with me? Because tomorrow I will not be a student. I will work for a different company, and this person might want to switch, and then I can help him. So networking is a two-way street, and the networking really never ends. I think that was it from my side.
Yeah.
And Rajiv,
Great, Anand. Thank you,
concluding.
Anand, for such an informative session and in-depth insights. I think this session must have really helped these guys, and to figure out how to do their stuff like introspection, which is a very important thing which you cited out during your whole session, and also the point that to summarize the whole session, it would be something like whenever you're narrowing down to B school, focus on the ROI, so that your goals align with that part as well. Just don't focus on the rankings, because you might get a straight if you focus only on the ranking part. Consider several other factors also, such as locations, their post-immigration policies, what is the job market, and how the AdCom committees are over there, and how the placement committees are over there, how they help out you, how will they help you out in finding the jobs post MBA. And then when we come later, you also need to focus on the application part, that your current position, your past, what you have done in your past experience, that should form a collinearity with your long-term goals, so that they all lie in a same straight line. And that is when your application will make sense, and you will see that it makes sense to apply in that school. Because when you have that thing, when you would have done that kind of level of introspection, you will see yourself tune in with the philosophy of the school, and that is something which will give you an edge over the other applicants, and help you stand out of the crowd. So guys, good to hear, and I'll just share my screen, and we'll begin with this thing now, with you guys, keeping you guys in priority. So we'll begin it is time for questions. Let's see what we have stored in our arsenal, so that we can help you guys out. So Anand, I see this question from V, which I think is popping up again and again. So he says that which country or college is best for FMCG and marketing career?
I am really not a career expert. I can only say from my experience is that FMCG is almost everywhere. If you really want to be like around the place where decisions are made, then target for your companies, for example, P&G, Unilever, and go and try to apply in those countries where they have their headquarters. For example, Unilever is shifting its headquarters to UK, but it also has a lot of its business and top management in the Netherlands. So here we see a lot of decision making happening. We have a lot of business heads based out of Netherlands. So the way to go forward is that I wouldn't answer the question which country is good for a career in FMCG, but is to look for those companies on the LinkedIn and try to see where out of which country their top management is based out of. For example, if you see a lot of German on LinkedIn, people say Germany, Frankfurt, right, like that. So if you see a lot of things, a lot of people based out of, then it's better to connect with a bunch of these companies and try to find out where they have better operations. So I think that's the way to go about it.
Great to hear. So also, I think Hanish also has a very common and a genuine question that, is the work experience of 3 years sufficient for, let's say, the European schools?
I wouldn't say that it is the least amount of work experience, but yeah, it is slightly on the lower side. So if you can complement that with a bit of higher GMAT score, or if you can talk to the B school and get to know a little bit about their MIM program, and if you feel that the kind of transition for your career is bridgeable through the MIM path, that would be a wiser choice to do, I think. But don't be shy in contacting their MBA teams and asking about how can you make up for a slightly lower amount of work experience, maybe through some additional courses or through a higher GMAT or something. So contact them.
Yeah. Karthik also has a nice question, I guess, because he says that thanks. I think I missed on to the name. Sorry, it's Rohit, who says that again. I think the answer is going to be same. That what are the top European schools for renewable energy and sustainability? I guess European is all about renewable, because they have shifted their target to be to be the world zero emission, to have they have the zero emission by 2050s. So
RSM does have its goal focused on sustainability, and some of the other B schools which focus on sustainability are like not particularly with their mission in that list that I've shared. But if you look for schools such as Tilburg University, that also focuses a little bit on sustainability, and some other schools which focus on sustainability. You can look for schools in Germany, because there they always have a sustainability mission in their set of guidelines that they want to follow.
Okay, great. Suman also has a question like, could you please throw some light on the language barrier while getting jobs post MBA?
Yeah, and after that, I also see a very good question. Do these schools entertain someone who's doing a second MBA? This is a good question.
Yes, exactly.
So Suman, to be very honest, I'll share my story with you. My wife is going to a German B school, and her program will start in September, and she's currently learning the first level of German, that is A1. So this, and why she's doing that, her school has not asked her so, but because after completing her MBA program, she wants to keep the German job options open to her. Those job options which definitely require German language open to her. That is why she's doing so. But these schools don't really ask you to learn the language. Most of the programs are in English, so you can definitely attend the program in English without learning the language, and you can also land your second job without learning the language. But if you want to integrate more into the society, then you should learn the language. For example, I live in Netherlands and I don't know more than 3-4 words of Dutch, which is not a very proud thing to say. But yeah, I have not been able to find time to do so. But yeah, once I find a job here and I see my life here, then like for future, then I will learn the language. So for MBA, that is not important. But yeah, for your future life here, that is important. And now coming back to the second question about second MBA. So there are a couple of schools which do not appreciate second MBA. For example, and that is my personal experience. I got in touch with Manheim last year. They told me that because I already had a PGDM from India, they wouldn't appreciate my application. But most of the schools treat your previous MBA as a part of your academics transition that you did, and now the purpose of this second MBA will be different. So in your application, you really have to show that why your previous experience, MBA experience or previous PGDM experience was relevant for your career, and what is the gap that you feel in your skills, in your experience and exposure, which you intend to fill with your second MBA. So second MBA is not frowned upon. Definitely, it's not frowned upon. Some of the schools will very straight away tell you. So that is why it is better to contact the schools before you write the application and waste 10 days of your time. Back to you.
Yeah, so we'd like to answer one last question, Anand, and then we'll quickly wrap it up with a summary. So Siddharth asks that, if you have experience from diverse backgrounds or diverse industries, what is the image created in the AdCom committee of B school? Is it consistency, or do they look at it as versatility?
I think that adds to your profile, because they look at you as a more experienced person who has worked across different industries. But you should be able to explain to them your transition, your reason for transition. Yeah. So you were looking for something else, you got more opportunities, you could add to the society and to the community in a way through your role there. Something like that. Meaningful.
Okay, great to hear that. So I hope this answers all your questions, and let's move on to our last part, where I'll explain you that how GMATWhiz can help you in your application services. So we have this very detailed oriented process in which we help you out in building your application and tuning your profile towards the school philosophy. So the first step that we go through and in which we spend a lot of amount of time is story formation, where we let you answer all the questions, something like we have our own questionnaire, which is personally designed, and, in which you answer what have you done till now, what has been even the trivialities that you have, even the trivial matters if you have done, for example, social service or some social impact, leading small teams at, in the underdeveloped sections, or organizing rallies, something or whatever it is, you need to mention in that story formation. And every line is thoroughly, when screened by our experts in GMATWhiz, and after which we are able to, comprehend that what candidate has to offer and what his profile looks like in a holistic manner. Then after we have done this story analysis formation, we then move on to the next step, which is narrowing down the schools, and based upon your choice, considering several factors, which of course Anand has stated. So containing all the factors that we account for, we then narrow down to the schools. And then we go on to the application phase, where we fine tune your essays, modify your answers, and then in which we are able to, we not only help you structure your thoughts and put it into a streamlined fashion, but also help you in assessing yourself while writing essays, so that when you answer, when you get to the interview stage, you are completely in line with that, and you don't deviate from those answers. Covering another main point which Anand stated in the webinars, which is maintaining consistency in the YMBA. And then is the second last stage, which is the resume building. So this is very simple. We need, once we have the story, once we have all the essays, we know the impact that you have created either at the societal level or at the industrial or at the professional level. And then it's just about how do we express it in the the action and the goals format in the resume. So that is where we help you out in refining the resume. And then is the last stage, in which we also hold mock interviews to so that you get a sense of the actual environment, how the mock interview will actually play out, how the actual interview will play out in the when you are into that atmosphere. So, and for all this whole bundled package, right from the story formation, from the scratch to getting you interview ready or admit ready, we have 2 packages: 3 school package and a 5 school package, in which 3 school is of $999 and 5 school costs you about $1,400. So this is, guys, it, and this is this is our website, GMATWhiz.com, and you can always write us to at support@GMATWhiz.com in case of any doubts, and the number that you see on the screen is my personal WhatsApp number, so you can anytime contact me on this WhatsApp number, so that we can you can reach out to us at your convenience. I'm also attaching a link over here, guys, where you can just click on this link and book a session for yourself. So here in this link, you will find a calendar where you will be able to book a session with one of our experts, and we will be we will provide you 30 minutes of free consultation in that part. So please visit that link and book yourself a session. Thank you, Anand. It was really an insightful session.
Just to add on to one thing, guys, please don't hesitate in talking to Piyush. He's just brilliant when it comes to guiding students to about B schools they should be doing, and how to go about the applications, and you will have a much better experience with Piyush than you have had with me so far. And so make sure to check out the link.
Okay, great. Thank you Anand for such kind words. And I really hope that this session helped you out a lot. And so from here we'll be taking off, and thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Anand. That's it. Thank you. Bye, guys.